to D&D Beyond. And today I'm very excited because we are going to talk about being indirectly deadly. How to support your party by weakening your foes. And to help me do that, please welcome one of my very favorite people to roll dice with, to talk TTRPGs with, or to talk comic books with. I'm not saying we'll get distracted, but it could happen. Please welcome Markeia McCarty.
Hey, happy to be on your show, Amy. This is great. Let's talk about when your character's too naughty and you're still trying to be nice.
Yeah, my joke title for this was Cruel to Be Kind. More than one way to help out. But so first, before we get into the specifics, because I'm very excited for this discussion, but it emerged out of us just talking about things that you enjoy doing in D&D. So we're going to talk about debuffing. And debuffing is not an official D&D term, but it
Mhm.
is the opposite of buffing, essentially. If you are uh, helping someone in a way that isn't healing them, you're buffing them. And if you are hurting someone in a way that isn't directly or exclusively just damage, you are debuffing. You are giving people advantages. And there are a lot of details you can get into in terms of what's debuff and what's controlling the battlefield and all of that. But as a general style and approach of play, what does playing a debuffer mean to you and why is it fun?
Okay, so for me, when I first started, like very first, like baby times, and the long ago, and the before time, I started off as a cleric. And because I found like, oh, like dual wielding cleric, I was just like, oh, this is what I've always wanted to do. And then I progressed into rogue with it. I was like, oh yeah, stabby from the shadows. This is what I'm meant to do. And then, like, as things kept on, uh, progressing forward, now it's like, oh, yeah, me being far away from battle, but also making the enemy weaker, but I still get to be an evilish character. This is what I'm meant to do. So I'm sure it's going to change like next month or next year and so on and so forth. But literally I found that I wanted to change the characters that I could do. I wanted to start going into more strong, leaning more into chaotic, leaning more into even having evil, like a chaotic evil kind of character, but not having it be a character that would torpedo the party. So I had to come to like a balancing act with it. How can I have a character that might be like a Cruella de Vil type, and I mean like old school, not like the new movie, or maybe even the new movie, Cruella de Vil type, but still be able to exist in like a troop that might be filled with like a talking Dalmatian and Haragon and stuff. So it's like how can I do this balancing act where I can feed my inner villain, but still be able to make sure that everybody's still having a good time interacting with my character. So that's when I really leaned into, debuffing. And with that, it's like you're not healing the party. Maybe you're a little bit too evil or you're not feeling like it. You're not that kind. But what you can do is that utilizing and we can do like a super deep dive into this. We're just going to do like a lighter one right now, but utilizing a number of cantrips or a number of features and traits from some particular classes. It's not that you're dealing heavy damage. That is not what it's about. It's about taking things away from your enemy so then your party can step in and deal the real damage. So that's what it means to me. That's why I do it now.
I love that. So an approach through flavor that sort of landed you on what is kind of a strategic and mechanical way to construct things. But that has led you to a couple of different examples that we were talking about earlier.
Mhm.
So I mean, a classic example of a debuff that folks will probably be familiar with is, of course, fairy fire. How to use little sparklies to set everybody up for success and also prevent your enemies from being invisible. It's a great example of something that, especially with new players, they aren't always immediately clear that, like, oh, this is something you can do, but it's not just for decoration. It has a very real effect, and you can watch everybody else succeed as a result of that. And that teamwork is producing the outcome that you want. But past that, or in addition to that, what are some of your go tos for putting this style of play into action?
Okay. Obviously, depending on what my class and everything is, but I'm really gonna lean into sorcerer and warlock. Well, bard lock. That's I don't know the level of gaming of the people that are going to be watching this, but like bard lock is a multi-class bard and warlock type of a deal. I lean more into warlock of those two classes than I do bard. Like if I'm doing a level 15, my warlock would be 11, my bard would be a 4, for instance. And then also sorcerer. The my top sorcerer that I'm using right now is the aberrant mind sorcerer. So just like, of course, there's that extra element of like, let's attack their minds.
I will
Okay,
note for
so
those watching because we do have my goal with these is that for people playing their first game and for people who played, I hope this is entertaining. So thank you as always, folks watching, for rolling with us as we try to make sure we're talking through what we do. The Aberrant Mind Sorcerer was introduced in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and you will note that the one of the features that makes it a lot of fun is not fully implemented at this time on D&D Beyond, the swapping of your spells at each gained level. But the basics are what we're talking about today, and just keep that in mind as you're building these. So the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer has that wonderful sort of other realm disturbing element to it and lets you have a lot of fun flavor. But what are some of the ways, like what are your favorite feature or spell to use with that?
Mhm. Okay, so for these spells, and this can be used. These are cantrips that you can use with your sorcerer build. Something that I don't want people to sleep on. I don't know if you're sleeping on it or not, but let's just talk about it. So, for instance, there is chill touch, which depending on your, it's a necromancy cantrip. And basically, it's a ghostly skeletal hand, reaches out within range, and the range is 120 feet. Remember what I said, like remotely causing damage.
I'm over
Um,
here causing problems.
it's like, "Oh, I'm all over here, y'all are battling, okay." On hit, you only deal 1d8 necrotic damage, and of course, that depends on your level. However, and the big thing that I love about Chill Touch is that, whatever or whomever you hit, they cannot regain their hit points until the start of your next turn. So, if everybody's battling and everything and, you see it you have a feeling that they're starting to get down in hit points and you want your team to keep on going, go ahead and hit them with a chill touch. Then they're going to have to rethink what they're doing because they're not going to be able to regain any hit points until your turn comes back around again. Maybe you try to hit them with a chill touch again because it's a cantrip. So see how it's like a bit evil, but it also helps.
I love that. And so
So
the element of this, folks will note in our system, we have a lot of tags for spell types, which can be really helpful to sort through things. And this one is, of course, listed as a damage spell. There is a listing, if you want, for debuff and for control to sort of browse through the kinds of effects you can create. But this one specifically is one of these damage. And also, this happens, which is, I love a great thing to highlight. So who's next?
okay, so next up, let's do shocking grasp. Okay, this one I like because sometimes you don't get the chance to be remote from everything. They get close to you, and what are you going to do now? So, with shocking grasp, it's the range is touch. It's not going to do much. Once more, it's 1d8 lightning damage, and but the thing of it is that it takes away the reactions of your opponent until their next turn. And that can be a big thing for somebody maybe coming in to barge in and rescue you, or maybe they need to back up kind of a thing, or maybe one of your team members needs to, back up and now they don't have an attack of opportunity kind of a deal. So there's a lot that can be done with that. So it's one of my favorites to utilize and keep in my toolkit.
And it's funny because I know I've used shock and grasp, but I think I've always kind of ignored that. I mean, just to tell on myself, like, and really not thought through the extra things that makes possible, which is, of course, what's so fun about the style of play. It's what you're preventing them from doing. It's what you're weakening on their side. It's the way you stop them from using the full extent of their abilities and dangerousness, which is just a very nice little kind of evil. Um, what's another go to?
Okay, mind sliver. I find a lot of joy with, and there's different ways to do that. It's a sorcerer one, but it's also like, for instance, if you do warlock and your patron. You can get this as what packed with your patron, and what Mind Sliver does, it's the range is 60 feet for it, and you send it out there. It has to be a creature that you can see within range, and it's pretty intelligent saving throw, yes. But, if the saving throw is unless the saving throw is successful, they get 1d6 of psychic damage, which, like, what's that gonna do? Okay, nothing. But the first time it makes a saving throw, it has to roll a d4 and subtract that number from the save. So, yeah, you're not causing a lot of damage. However, let's say that your fighter companion is, charging in on the other side. And they just had to take a D4 minus on whatever their role would be from that. So it's like I think that helps a lot, and you got to do like a little psychic sting in there.
And of course, you can combine that with like you could deploy this in an attempt to get them to burn a legendary resistance on something. If they
Mhm.
don't want to, if they were otherwise going to save them up, this might be enough to sort of get them to burn those early, and then your spellcasters can come in with something true terrifying. Lots of different ways to deploy that one. I love it. Um, Also an Tasha's Cauldron of Everything spell. But okay, out of the world of sorcerers, what's another way to go about putting this flavor into action?
Okay. Well, out of sorcerers, then let's go into bards. What I'm really liking with bards right now is that I would do the College of Eloquence with bards. I never really saw myself as a bard type person because I don't know. For me, it was opposite. It's like I'm a creative type and I love karaoke, but I'm like for my character, I want to try something like super villainy, and that's just where I live right now. But then I saw some of the stuff that bards can do, and I was like, "Okay." So, like, for instance, every I if you don't know already, there's bardic inspiration, that you can do where you buff your party, with that bardic inspiration, giving them that 1d6. I don't know how many people know, but it's also something that I love using. It's called unsettling words, and you just kind of see it as the other side of the coin of bardic inspiration. And you literally choose one character that you see within 60 feet, and it's like you neg them. you know,
I'll
so
read the
with
full
that,
description on this one because I love it. The third
okay,
level College of
yeah.
Eloquence feature, if you've picked this up, unsettling words, you can spin words laced with magic that unsettle a creature and cause it to doubt itself. As a bonus action, you can expend one use of your bardic inspiration and choose one creature you can see within 60 feet of you. Roll the bardic inspiration die. The creature must subtract the number rolled from the next saving throw it makes before the start of your next turn.
So, and it's, you can have a bit of a fun RP element in that too. Like maybe, Star Wars flavor-esque curses that could happen between that particular character and the baddie while they're doing the unsettling words. Something safe, light, but also, oh, words hurt in the way that,
Which
you know,
And of course, they've expanded on this very recently with the Strixhaven curriculum of chaos, where they added silvery bards, a special, like really leaning into the sort of supervillain side of bards. I feel like in a lot of the theming for that school, which gives us some great possibilities. But I believe you also had referenced a classic for bards that plays to this as well. Mhm.
uh, what did I? What in particular are we referring to? Is it one of the
Oh, sorry, we
spells?
talked a lot. Just wanted to make sure we cover a vicious mockery.
Ah, yes, indeed. Vicious mockery. Okay, so it's just such a fun cantrip. I mean, it really is. It's worth taking Bard, I think, for vicious mockery. Once
A
again, it's
classic. I
it's
mean,
okay. It's classic. I mean, I whenever I think of like vicious mockery, I think of, oh God, what was it? First night? No, was that it? First night. It's Vision's movie. You know what I mean? It's medieval times. Vision's actor is Paul.
oh, A Knight's Tale.
A Knight's
A
Tale.
Knight's
Thank you.
Tale.
It's
Chaucer,
literally a
Paul Bettany as Chaucer, classic,
Paul Bettany
one of
as
my favorite
Chaucer. I
performances.
see vicious mockery as that character. That is how I always see this cantrip going off. So, it's 60-foot radius. You unleash a string of insults, and it's just like any creature you see within range. It's like this is perfect. I think this is really great for anybody also that's like really heavily into RP or is just starting to RP. And it's like you could even ahead of time, you have this cantrip all the time. Ahead of time, you could like go ahead and write some things down that you have. It's kind of like prepping your rap for a future occasion. And as long as they can hear you, it must succeed on a wisdom saving throw, or it takes 1d4 psychic damage. And here's the thing of it, it has disadvantage on its next attack roll before the end of its next turn. So it's like that helps. You get to be saucy and salty, and you still help your squad. I mean, what's better than that?
And now I don't know if I'd ever actually made this link, but I will now be picturing Paul Bettany as Geoffrey Chaucer just leaning into the debt collector and just being like, I will excoriate you in fiction. Every boil, every lamb, blah, blah. And of course, there's a specific, it's maybe the partner that he's threatening there because it's a whole riff on actual Chaucer. And I can't remember right now who that person is. But if you haven't watched that movie, it's delightful. And you could make a pretty nice D&D party, I think, out of all of them.
I think so, definitely. I want to a party that I would like. I know I've just been watching a lot of older media lately. I want to make a party that's like the Monster Squad, and then just like go off into, and it's like we're gonna right some wrongs, but we just also happen to be like this great aquatic monster and a vampire and a
That is,
werewolf type, so on and so forth. I want that.
you know what? We have so many good options for that, especially with the new ones that came in with Ben Richards' Guide to Ravenloft. You could absolutely do that, and that is a great idea.
And then all of them can utilize things like this to also debuff while
The
they come
power of
into their
zingers.
goodness, while they grow.
Mhm, mhm. Let's see. So, what are your other tips for sort of putting this, like, if you've made these choices in your build and like your kit that you're going to go out with, while you're in play, what are your sort of tips for being a debuffer in the party?
Okay. Well, I feel like with this, if you're gonna be like a debuffer, you are gonna be squishier. So I don't recommend there's a number of other spells like we don't have the time to get into it right now that can be like debuffing and then also help you get away, but I would not recommend being in the thick of things. You still, let your fighters and your paladins, your clerics, your dual wielding clerics go in there before you do, kind of a thing. So I would definitely recommend that. I would allow yourself the leeway to I mean, I know I've been like kind of joking with it where it's like to be more naughty than nice kind of a thing, but I would allow yourself the leeway with that. But it's also make sure that you check in with your squad before you do some things. You need to know where those lines are. It's like you're trying to grow as your RP and a player, as a player, but you always have to be aware of other people's comfort levels. And I
Mm,
think so. I think doing something like this, like going into that RP element, can help you get to being able to read the room better, like as a person. Like this is just one of those things where it's like how D&D helps you enrich your own life kind of a deal. And also never get too attached to a character that is primarily debuff, because if you are let's say they split the party and you only, let's like you and the fighter go off somewhere, the fighter gets surrounded and then there's still some more left for you. You better look at the rest of your build because you're about to go down, my friend. So it's like
so,
literally keep that in mind.
well, and that makes, I think, a nice counterbalance to the other point you were making, which is, you're probably going to need strength in numbers, which is why it's a good idea to make sure that your party and your fellow players like you, and you're all having a good time together, and they would like you to stay alive.
Yeah,
No,
I
but
mean,
I
think
think that is
overall.
a it's a great point that you make about, especially if you are playing a character who takes advantage of meanness, that is something that you want to make sure you can do in a way that's fun for you, that's fun for your players, that's fun for your DM. And that can be sort of like a make sure that everybody's fun is kind of meshing together. Because you can create some wonderful, memorable moments, but sometimes meanness has splash damage. Just as a general
Yeah.
sort of approach.
Some of the things that I would recommend is like, make sure you know how we talk about tragic flaws, for like people and characters and everything. Literally build in some kind of big tragic flaw for your maybe even Mean Girls like character, where it's like maybe their tragic flaw is they want to make sure that everybody's fed. It's like, okay, you're my enemy, or I'm on the fence with you, but I'm gonna cook for everyone every night because we are going to be. I didn't have enough when I was growing up, so you're everyone around me is going to. And then they might sit on the edge of the campfire where they're like, "Are you enjoying your roast beef? Great, don't talk to me." Yeah, it's that's
That's a great
build
way to
something
complicate that,
in.
yeah.
Yeah, think it's like thinking of, the character arc. So then, like, later on when you help somebody up from the battlefield and, give them a pat on the back, or you save a child or something like that, and you're like, "What? You do it all the time." So
This is I mean, fantastic advice in here for just sort of playing a reluctant hero in a way that works with everyone, and can be just a ton of fun, because a character like that over time, like, the first time you get them to sort of genuinely crack a smile at something, everybody else feels like they just won a giant battle, and that could be a lot of fun to put into practice. Are there any other sort of, general, like, mechanical tips or, like, item pairings or other stuff that comes to mind that you have found helped, put this play style into effect?
yeah. Well, I mean, it's going to go into more specifics of builds with it. For instance, like for instance, like a spell that I found is very helpful where it's a concentration spell. It's called Enemies Abound. So for this one, I'm keeping in mind that this is also one that it's not going to deal damage. It is a concentration spell. It's an intelligence save, depending on your level. But you're going to reach into the mind of one creature. It makes an intelligence saving throw. Th they can't be immune to being frightened, by the way. But with this, they won't be able to tell friend from foe. So if you literally are able to get into a mind of an enemy and then have them battling on the side of yours, like, this doesn't deal any damage. Telling you that, it doesn't. It just turns one person around. And I feel like that could make a lot of difference, and that's something to keep in mind. I was kinda surprised, like, I've played for, like, a number of different parties now, and this is one that I tend to keep in my toolkit, and I never really saw other people doing it. I was like, "Why not?" It's like when they beat them down, or maybe you've debuffed this person, so their next save, if their next save it happens to be your save with this intelligence, saving throw, why not do it enemies abound? And now you have an extra person fighting on your side until it wears off. So something to
So
keep
that
in mind.
absolutely the classic confusion tactic, the sort of ways of disrupting in other ways, and of course, it's also plays into a thing that makes these styles of play effective is if you can create a lot of conditions, which are easy to overlook sort of mechanically, but like,
Mhm.
there's a long list that you can see on the sidebar in your character sheet of sort of all of the things that are going to make it just a little tougher for them to do what they want to do, tougher to move around, tougher to use their reactions, tougher to recover from things, vulnerable to certain types of damage. That's not specifically a condition, but I'm just listing ways to help yourself and your
Mhm.
party. And they're a powerful tool in your arsenal. Mm, And and okay, I'm gonna start our questions just a little bit early before we get to our Twitch only question and answer time, because we do have one very important D&D Beyond question that we have to throw at you. And
Okay.
I hope you're ready. Padawan would love to know, Markeia, what is your favorite dinosaur?
That was, exactly the question that I thought would be.
So, I think I just accidentally unsettling words. Sorry. It's the power, just the sheer, the chaos. It's what we live for. Uh,
Awesome. Awesome question. Oh my god. Um, okay, okay. Actually, it hasn't this dinosaur hasn't been unseated for me since I saw the original Jurassic Park. Um, I and I'm actually I enjoy dinosaurs a lot, and I love the Jurassic Park franchise, but I always end up going back to Jurassic Park as one of my, oh, I don't know what to watch. Let me go ahead and I'm gonna watch this and have a good time movie. The Struthiomimus. Which is think of like the like Roadrunner fast dinosaurs. In particular for Jurassic Park when they're looking like a flock of birds, very lethal, huge birds, running through the field, and then they start running towards them, and they have to hide behind the log. So yeah, I still really enjoy the Struthiomimus because it's like I think of like a favorite dinosaur, like it's one that I want to ride and I'm not going to worry too much that it's always going to try to eat me like Blue would. So, yeah, that was my what a great
Amazing.
question.
That
What
was
a great
fantastic.
question. Oh my god.
Thank you. And we're deeply grateful that we have this tradition going over time at D&D Beyond. We actually add these to a list, and they are very fun. But thank you, most importantly, for sharing your great thoughts today on playing a debuff character, why you should, why it's fun, how to do it, or at least how to get started and get your feet wet with the nasty but nice world of debuffing your enemies to help your friends. Markeia, where can people find you for more of the stuff that you are up to?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Markeia McCarty. That's MarkeaMcCarty. On Twitch and TikTok, I am Darth Markeia. And if you enjoy horror, check out my streaming web series, Something Scary. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/snarled, or we have additional podcasts with that. And that's wherever podcasts are found.
Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Please keep checking out those pre-orders for Critical Role: Call of the Nether Deep, which is very close for Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse. We have a very cool dice sale, which, depending when you're watching this, could already be happening coming up. So stay tuned for those details on our digital dice. And we will see you. Let's see. I'm checking my list, which I just went off the cuff on. That about covers it. Unwelcome Spirits returns next week. And we will see you next time on D&D Beyond.
It's D&D.